Tell me, how are you going to work with Congress to protect jobs in District 3? And tell me a concrete plan. What do you have in mind?
Yeah. So when I go to Congress, my number one goal is to join this Problem Solvers Caucus, and that's made up of 29 Democrats and 29 Republicans. And they pass legislation in a bipartisan manner. And they brought us the first infrastructure bill, which provided a lot of money and funds to keep people working. And it also brought us the very first infrastructure bill, bipartisan, which brought a tremendous amount of money to our district for roads and bridges and broadband. Sadly, Lauren Boebert voted against both of those bills. She tried to take credit for it. For those that know, she did vote against those bills. And so, as you know, most parts of rural Colorado and rural western areas in the United States are mostly Republican dominated. And so I think my bipartisan manner and the ability to work with everybody in Congress, not make fun of them, is how I'm going to sit down and try to work with everybody to focus on jobs and focus on the economy and focus on trying to get inflation under control. So a couple things in that matter of how I'm going to work. Now let's talk about what we want to do. Infrastructure is still really important. There's a lot of hardworking men and women in businesses in this community that send a tremendous amount of money to Washington, D.C. And I think it's really important that a representative actually doesn't try to stop money from coming, as our current representative does, but actually tries to every day try to figure out how to bring those monies back home and put it in the hands for the county to figure out what types of bridges need to be fixed, what type of increased health care we can have at the county level, and try to make sure that there's good paying jobs for men and women of all races and all ages to make sure that the infrastructure, human as well as roads and bridges, get taken care of. And this community needs more jobs. We also need to make sure that we remain energy independent as much as possible. I am a pro-domestic energy Democrat. I think it's very, very important for people to understand that. This district is producing the cleanest coal and the cleanest natural gas in the country. We obviously have a climate crisis on our hands. We need to make that transition, but it's going to be a lot longer than a lot of people think. So I want to make sure we have strong, well-paying jobs in our energy sectors, both the traditional energy sectors as well as the renewable energy sector.
In terms of the water situation, what will you do in Congress to work? And for example, states like California have adopted emergency regulations to monitor water use. Is that something you think Western Colorado will have to do?
We'll have to see how it goes out. So, the water from Western Colorado supplies about 40 million people, including everyone in California and in Arizona and in Nevada, the lower basin states. And then we have Wyoming and Colorado, Utah and New Mexico and the upper basin states. And we need to figure out how to keep as much water in southern and western Colorado as possible. And at some point there's going to be a discussion, and that discussion is going to be 52 people from the state of California that are House of Representatives, and there's going to be 8 of us in Colorado. And I ask every family, every business owner, every community, who do you want sitting in that table representing Colorado, the current representative that doesn't spend a lot of time in those meetings and building bipartisan relationships to make sure that the rural aspects of Colorado keep our water. And so I think that's really important. We have done some measures to reduce some of the demand in water. We need to continue to do that, but it's really, really, really important for our ag and for our ranching and for our recreation and for Western Colorado's ecological systems that we keep as much water here in the Western Slope and in Southern Colorado as well.
Are you in agreement with Lauren Boebert about gun control laws and access to weapons? Are you on the same page with her, or do you disagree? And what?
No, I think in a bipartisan manner, I was really excited and was very supportive of some rational gun safety laws that were passed for the first time in 26 years. I'm pretty sure she was against those common sense. We need to make, there are a lot of people that I'd be very happy to give them the keys to a tank. And there's a lot of people I do not want them to have a hammer. And we need to make sure that guns stay out of the hands of the wrong people. And that's where my main focus is. That bipartisan legislation that was passed by the Senate with 10 Republican senators, it had billions of dollars for mental health. And there's no doubt that a lot of these horrible shootings that happen have to do with mental health, and we need to try to figure out how to identify those people, almost always young men, to try to figure out how to make sure we reduce these horrible mass shootings everywhere. But it's very, very important that people should have access to have their guns for safety, protect their family, protect their business, and for recreation, for hunting and target practice.
Abortion, would you vote for a law that prohibits abortion?
No. I am a big believer in women's healthcare freedom, especially on reproductive rights. Our Representative Boebert, I believe, is in that community of there's about 8 or 10% of the people in the country that do not believe that abortion should be allowed, even in the horrible cases of rape, incest, and the life of a mother. And I don't know what her solutions are for that, but she does not even allow those exceptions to be in place. And that is only where, again, 8 or 10% of the country is. And so I just don't think those doctors' offices have enough room for the woman, the healthcare provider, and the entire government.
Western Colorado has less investment in K-12 schools compared to schools in the Front Range. What are you going to do if you get elected for Congress? Especially teaching jobs are very low paid.
Yeah, so this is really important. First of all, I am a para member. When COVID started, I went and received my substitute teaching license for 3 years, and I was in the school district 2 or 3 days a week up in the Roaring Fork Valley, focused on pre-K4. Kids need to be in the classroom at all times. I did that during COVID. My wife is the president of our school board. I have a 16-year-old son and a 15-year-old daughter. I've been volunteering in the school district for a long time. We need to make sure that rural Colorado, Western Slope, Southern Colorado have the same academic options as those fancy resort towns and all the really nice suburbs in Denver, Colorado.
Would you support a bill that would grant citizenship to the 10 to 11 million undocumented persons in the United States?
Yeah, I think we need to deal with the reality of that there are 10, 11 million undocumented people here, and we need to figure out how to put them on a path. The model that I'm talking about a lot is to go back to 8 or 9 years ago. There was a bipartisan movement called the Gang of Eight, and it was 4 Democratic senators, including Michael Bennet, and 4 Republican senators, including Lindsey Graham and obviously the deceased John McCain. And it was a very humane policy to try to honor those that were already here. They would need to get in line where they belong and continue to process more funding to bring in the legal immigration. And there was also some additional allowances for ag and ranching to make sure that, especially in Western and Southern Colorado, we would have the labor force that we need to be one of the best producing states for beef and produce and other crops for everything else like that. So to me, again, it's a bipartisan manner to try to figure out how to bring people in here with humanity while still protecting the border. It's important that we have a strong border, but we can do with humanity. And we obviously need to manage the 10 million plus more people that are already here. And let's figure out a way to put them in a line and make them earn their way to citizenship, and I'm supportive of that.
Okay, and then now about DACA, deferred action for childhood arrivals. These are the children that already have some type of permit to work here. Would you support a bill that would grant them citizenship?
I think, again, we need to figure out a way to manage, especially those children that are already here. And we need to come up with a humane way that follows the rules to make sure that there's a process of transparency and clarity to make sure that they can earn that path to citizenship. I don't want to send them home even if we had the logistics to do them home. I think we need to honor where they are and bring them in due course, make sure they wait in line and follow some rules to bring them in legally.
And there are people, especially in the Republican Party, that say or believe that an election can actually be altered during voting. What do you think about that?
I think the United States has some of the safest and most secure voting rules and regulations and results in the world. And I think Colorado, I believe, is in the top 5 of voter security. Every election that happens in this country is fair. And there is 99.99% of those ballots are turned in are true. And so I will honor the election results, whatever they may be. I feel very strongly we are going to be the emotional win for the country, not just CV3 or the Democratic Party. I'm not sure where my opponent, Boebert, feels about honoring those results when they come out and she's on the losing side, but we will honor them.